Okay, so I've cleaned up the shell. You can see some stress marks. Like I said, you want to take your time. You want to do a really good job. I was kind of quick, just video purposes, but if this is going to be your baby, you want to take your time. So I used my Dremel with this bit right here. It's almost like a milling bit. I used to be a machinist quite some years ago, and we used big bits just like this. It rotates, and you can actually shave off. You can do plunge and do circular flat cuts. So I was able to really clean that out compared to where it was a little while ago. And over here, if you notice, I actually shaved quite a bit because I tried to fit the circuit board in there, and it would get kind of hard in the edges. So I actually used this to shave off little by little the walls so they became a lot flatter because I had a ridge going on the inside. So now it's nice and clean, pretty smooth for the most part. There's no obstructions. So this is kind of what we want inside the shell. I'll put a link in the description for these bits. I got them on Amazon. They're great. Be very careful, because if you have you hit like a solid piece, it could easily jump. You can damage the shell. Worst case scenario, you can hurt yourself. So always super careful with this. So I have an older circuit board here. Same shape, same everything. So you can see it goes in like butter. Doesn't even move. And if you flip it over, you can see the buttons line up pretty damn good. So the up and down is there perfectly. B and A, select and start. So for the select and start, I plan to, you got to open up the hole a little bit. The Minty Pie buttons that I'm including, it's not the white ones, I just grabbed whatever I had on hand, has these 4 buttons here. It's up to you which one you decide to use. I use the smaller ones, which is what they were designed for start and select on the Minty Pie, the outer edge ones. These here are a little wider, but they're a little longer. Maybe you might want to have a little height to them, so you can use those. So if I line it up here, you'll see that up and down is pretty much perfect in terms of the cutout. I'm trying to get it on the camera. It just hits right where the cutout is. So we just got to do the left and right. So the easiest way for that, grab a Sharpie, get the top and bottom of the D-pad as centered as possible with the cutouts for the top and bottom. Put a little bit of pressure and just go around. You can always clean this up with some alcohol, so it's not a big deal. So ideally we need to open up a little bit the hole, and this is more or less what we got to cut out. So a lot of methods of doing this. The Dremel is a good thing, but you have to have super control, because you can easily just work and just cut a big chunk. The way I did my other one, and the way I plan to show here for people that don't have a lot of tools, just use the knife. Just score it. You want to make sure it's even on both sides. Might want to get a ruler for this, but I can see down here is good. So this was the edge, so we might just go a little bit further. We're just scoring it. Over here, same thing. I'm going to do, put a little bit of pressure. You can stress mark it, unfortunately. That's something that sucks, you know. So you might want to go a little slower and just keep taking a little bit of material every time you pass the knife. Cut a little deeper, a little deeper. So as soon as you put that pressure on the plastic, it's going to stress mark. Again, all this extra work is for the shells that don't have the D-pads like this. I mean, the D-pad cutouts already. Okay, well, this one was already through, wasn't too bad. Let's do this one. Get your fingers out of there. So you don't want to put pressure on these, kind of come and hit your finger. This one already went too. Okay, not too bad, not too bad. Of course, we can use files after to smooth everything out, but let's do a test fit. Left and right looks okay. Got to clean up that hole a little bit, the burrs in a way. Now we just need to open up the bottoms a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to clean up this opening. So it's a little squarer. Alright, so since we have cutouts already for the top and bottom, all we're going to do is just kind of just push it, just slice a little at a time until you got it wide enough. Do both sides. So you're just basically shaving a little at a time. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see in the camera. I'll do it this way so hopefully you guys can see better. So basically I'm just shaving like a millimeter, half a millimeter, whatever. A little at a time. Do a little on that side, do a little on this side. Over here. Even though, like I said, if it looks crooked or whatever, it's not a big deal. You can always use files, make everything nice and straight. We're just trying to get the overall shape, and then we could fine tune it. Let's see where we're at. Okay, not too bad. I just need to maybe open up a little bit more on both sides, more so on the top, and then we got a decent cutout. think we're okay with that. We're going to clean it up with the file, obviously. So that fits in good. Okay, there's our D-pad. Now, the A and B buttons, unfortunately, are way tight. So the buttons can barely fit unless you really push them in. Yeah, man. Okay, see, they're in there, but they don't have that spring. So if you push them in, they stay in. So we're going to have to open up the holes a little bit if you want to use these buttons. You don't need to do the 4-face buttons. If you do, you have to drill 2 more holes down here for A and B, but if you just use these 2 buttons, it's just that. You'll have to just cut it across. I suggest most people just do the B and A. And then you got the L and R board for the back button. So you can play pretty much everything. Some Super Nintendo that doesn't require, you know, L and R or the. So up until the Genesis, you can play no problem. It's because most games are 3 buttons. There's like a handful. When I say a handful, I'm talking about like 5 or 6 games maybe that requires the 6 buttons. So you can get away with 3 buttons all day. So I'm gonna have to open that up. I don't know the drill offhand, but we'll find out right now. The drill press obviously is great for this. You have a lot more control as opposed to, okay, so the hole is 7/64. The hole in there right now. So we're just going to go up a little bit. To 9/32. For those in the UK or anywhere else in the world where it's metric, I can get a measurement for you. I'll put it in the description in millimeters, but for we Americans, it's 9/32. It should be big enough to open it up. I'll probably even do it by hand. Yeah, some nice bits, and you can probably just do this easily by hand. Might have to go up another size, we'll see. Well, that works pretty decently. Got some spring. But I think we might go up one more size just to have a little bit more freedom. So this next size is 19/64. Okay. Not bad at all. Very easy. So let's go put the buttons in there and check them out. Much better. They have plenty of room. You can see the gap, just a slight gap around the buttons. Very nice. So that's what we want to do for the A and B. Now for the start and select, it's an oval shape, so you're going to need to open it up into a circle. Again, depending on which one you use, the outer one or the inner one, it's going to be a different size. This looks like it'll work perfect for the start and select. This one is 5/32. So 5/32 for these outer ones. can try to do it by hand. I gotta tell you, because of this oval, it's gonna hit hard. So I'm gonna get my drill real quick and just clean out that hole. So here we go. Try to get as centered as possible. Go slow. Because of the oval, it doesn't really want to make a circle, you know, because it's oval like that. There's our hole. We can deburr it. There's a bunch of deburring tools. I have quite a few of them. There are these things here for the countersink. Clear it up. I also have one I used to use when I was a machinist. One of these little deburring tools. So this goes in a hole and it pivots, cleans it out. Good for like these right here. Start and select. You can get a lot of these things at Harbor Freight. You can even use this to clean up these edges. But we're probably better off with the files. So I think we're all set with the face, besides a little cleanup work. But let's see. D-pad's in there. Let me just cut this A and B after. Put the start and select in there. Get to deburr front and back. Okay, there we go, we're looking alright. Now the other important things we got to do is do the cutout for the power switch and the mode button, which is going to be here. There's nothing on the right side. So as you can see, there's a little tactile, that's the mode button. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to get it in here, like all the way down, because it's going to go crooked because of that. I don't have a guide yet, but I plan to make one, like probably a 3D printed guide, so you guys can just, you know, print it out, and it'll probably go into the corner here and it'll mark a hole. But I have this, and I can kind of get it a rough estimate of where it's supposed to be. So it ain't gonna lay flat because of the screen. The screen does not go all the way up. It actually stops. Like, the best thing to do is try to get it in the center of the two posts. That gives you a good idea where it's gonna stop. And then this has a ribbon connector, so it's, again, the board's not gonna sit flush on there. This is just to kind of give us a rough idea of where it's gonna sit in here. So I don't have my calipers with me, but I can gauge it more or less where it's going to be. So based on that, where the circuit board's going to sit, I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere like over here. So we just drill a hole, even if it's not like, it doesn't need to be a super small exact hole, it can be a little oversized, it's not a big deal. Until there's a better guide. So as I can see, dropping it here, yeah, it's more or less between these two ridges right here on this shell, the two bottom ridges. Get my trusty drill I just used to drill. Start and select and get it about centered right here. Okay, to make it, again, like I said, a little bigger, this way, not off too far. Not shabby. You might want to countersink a little bit just because the hole is kind of in there. The button, I mean, it doesn't have a long actuator. It should have. Unfortunately, they gave me this smaller actuator button. So we'll just have to make do with what we got. Another thing too, once you break it off, as you can see, it's not like perfectly straight. So you can file that or even use the knife and just kind of scrape it. Try to get it down more, get rid of these little notches. It's not going to affect anything, just ground. So that's a little thinner and straighter, so I think we can. So let me show you guys how to more or less put this in. The screen is going to be a little all over the place, so what I recommend is a little bit of tape. Just fold it over on itself. This also, you want to shave it down as much as possible, you know, with the flush cutters, any little pins here. So all I'm doing is just taking some tape, folding it over. Just to kind of hold it in place and make it easier for you to line things up. Be careful inserting the screen. You don't want to damage it. That might not work quite how I wanted, so keep the tape on there. The screen ribbon is kind of flexible, so you can put it down, because we have to kind of angle it just because of the button. So once it's in there with the button, you can push it down. Might have to adjust the screen a little bit. It's crooked. Okay. Still crooked. Alright, that's looking better. Okay. Now if you notice, because of the way the screen is and the ribbon connector, the board is not really like flush. You'll see just slightly angled down if you look over there. So when this is all set, ready to go, it's, you know, you're not going to have always like the best contact maybe for some of the buttons. That's something that kind of sucks just because of the screen, which is why sometimes it might be good to use the dome buttons, but if not, not a problem, because I built one with it without the dome buttons. So when this is all set ready to go, of course you're going to have the Pi here, and you have to make a cutout for the SD card, as well as make one down here for the USB-C. You're going to be hot gluing like the edges, like over here on the sides, so it's going to stay kind of angled, but the controls will work fine. I guess I'm going to have to make a jig for this as well, so we have a good idea where the USB-C is, but from where it is pushing down on it, you can see it's pretty close to the edge, maybe a little bit up, so you'll have to probably mark it by eye, unless I have a guide. It looks like it's about here, and I'd say about here. So there's my rough draft of where I think it is. Pretty sure it's going to be fine. Looking at it from inside and then that way, I could see it's pretty decent. It'll work good. Now, I don't have a Pi on this one, but the Pi is just going to barely sit over here, and then you're going to do the same thing, mark for the SD card slot, so that the card can be inserted in and out from the top. There is quite a bit of space back here, so you can put a decent sized battery, or as I've said, once you put the back in, you can use this, you know, drill a hole here, 'cause it's got a JST connector or wherever side, and then you can use, you know, the cover to hold your battery. I think that about does it. I already have the soldering video I think that I've made for this one. If it's not for this one, it's the exact same thing for the Game Boy SP Pi that I made, which is just lay it on there flat, solder it. I have a picture guide on my site when you buy it that has all the test points, which GPIO corresponds to what test points. I might make an official video of me soldering this, just so you guys know how to solder the switch on and everything else. So for the majority of this, the important thing that we've covered today is opening up the shell, more or less getting the holes and the cutouts done, drilling the hole for that, the USB-C, which we'll eventually do, you know, it's not too hard, drill a couple holes and do the file or use the knife, as we did to cut this out, you know, the D-pad. Same thing with the USB-C, I mean the SD card. For the SD card, you're only going to really know where it sits once you have the Pi soldered on there. You know, you can see where the slot goes and mark it and just try to cut it out in the same fashion. So hopefully this gives you guys a starting point. You know, I know it's not the greatest video tutorial and all that, but at least it gives you a good idea where to start and more or less what you need to do. And also I'm going to have the Dremel bit in the description, so you guys can get the same one, and hopefully it'll be easy as it was for me, because I did a really good job cleaning that. Alright, thanks for watching.